Here live. Hello, welcome to what is a bonus episode of Garibaldi Red as we look forward to the playoff final on Sunday at Wembley against Huddersfield. Delighted to be joined, first of all, by Reds legend Garry Birtles. Hello, Garry. I say, how are you? I know you've been away for a week and it's been quite heavy. So how are you getting on? It wasn't a week.
Do you not stop adding days to the time that I was away? I was away for 3 days. That was it. I had to come back to work. I had to do Leicester Southampton on Sunday, so I had to come back early.
Well, I'm glad you made it back in one piece. That's good to hear. Good stuff.
Thank you so much.
And our second guest is former Reds manager and player, of course, and Academy Director, Paul Hart. Paul, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Matt. And if you go away with Garry, 3 days can often seem like a week.
Just no need for it, really, is there? Just no need. It's ganging up on me already.
Right, we'll get into the football.
Hey, I'm used to it from him. He used to kick me. Now he's verbally kicking me.
We'll get into the football. We spent the first 10 minutes of Monday's show with Prutz and David Johnson talking about shoes and Instagram, so we don't want to do that with these chaps. We'll get into the football. We don't want to dwell on the semi-final, but there's a bit of footage of you, Garry, looking pretty emotional, giving Dane Murphy a hug after Sheffield United. I mean, how was it for you after seeing Forest toil for so long?
That's the thing. It has been so long. You know, I'm a Forest fan, born and bred Nottingham, and you're just desperate to see them get back in the Premier League. They've got to the playoffs before, but they haven't got through to the playoff final. And to do that, I think it's one of the biggest games in the club's history. And I think obviously Sunday's going to be another one of the biggest games in the club's history. I said it could be possibly bigger than the European Cups because getting back in the Premier League is just incredibly rewarding financially, and if everything goes to plan, you can stay in there a few seasons and hopefully progress and build. Yeah, so this game Sunday is just huge.
How have the playoffs been for you, Paul? I mean, you've got two clubs of interest because obviously Luton pay the bills and put food on the table for you, but you've got strong loyalties to Forest. How's the last week or so been for you?
Well, we're incredibly pleased with what we've done this year. I mean, very disappointed not to have progressed because we thought we should have done, and really we've been fighting with our hands tied behind our backs for the last 5 or 6 weeks with goalkeeper injuries and key players missing. But the players, when you reflect on the season, it's been amazing. Considering that I think we're probably the second lowest budget in the league, and it's unheard of on our budget, something like that, 7 million to finish so high, and we've been excellent. The manager, Chris Cohen, staff, have had to be tactical and strategic. And I think they've been, the whole club is proud, although disappointed. And, now we've got to build on it and deliver it again next year, if that's possible.
How impressed have you been? Obviously, Nathan Jones won Manager of the Year, and a lot of Forest fans said Steve Cooper should have done, which is, a moot debate. How impressed have you been with Steve Cooper's work from a managerial point of view, Paul?
Well, he's done very well. To come in after the start that Forest made. But I've said before, Steve's they play the ball forward now, and for the past I don't know how many years, maybe 10 years. We Forest have dropped off deep and been quite defensive. And it's great to see Nottingham Forest playing like supporters and people attached with Nottingham Forest expect them to play.
Well, they play like your team played. What was it? I mean, Paul, what would it mean to you? I don't want to say redemption for 2003 because that's not the right word, but after coming so close with Forest to finally see them get back in the Premier League, touch wood, what would that mean to you?
Well, it's I'm I still live in Nottingham. I'm close to it, and like you said right at the outset, I work for Luton Town, and it's a great club. But you know, Nottingham Forest are a club affiliated to the Premier League. They should be there. Wonderful support, and you know, and I think they can do it. No question.
What about you, Gary? I mean, you've seen Forest up close going to games struggle for so long. I mean, a lot of the years they've been out of the Premier League, they've been pretty average at best, sometimes terrible. If they do win on Sunday, what would it mean to you personally?
It'll maybe take the pressure off our lot a little bit, because we get a lot of blame for, you know, what we achieved all those years ago, and it's not about us. It's about this current team, this current manager, this current football club. What Steve Cooper, everybody at the club have done is put big smiles on people's faces in Nottingham. You know, you go around everywhere. I ask in bars and things, you know, what's the change been? They said it's been an absolute unbelievable change from, you know, the start of the season when we had 1 point when Steve came in, and it's you just watch the players now. He's released the shackles. You know, I said this before. People say, well, you know, what? It's the same. Some of the same players. You know, what's the difference? And it's just saying the thing about Brian Clough. You know, I'm not bothered what you can't do. I'm just bothered what you can do. And you know, the players seem to do that. They go out there with that confidence and that ability to, you know, do the right things and not worry about making mistakes. I think that's one of the hardest things in football. You not to worry about making mistakes. And if you go out with that in your mind, you know, like Jed Spence will be told to get forward because, you know, he causes havoc at times, and somebody behind will look after the, you know, that space, and he's able to go and do that with confidence. And you know, I've watched training a few times when Steve's been taking it, and it's really impressive to watch. You know, totally different to when we played. You know, obviously the pitches are better, but you know, the method and the way he goes around it, and you know, takes over the whole, you know, sessions. It's impressive to watch, and you feel a little bit privileged to be able to see how he has actually done it, and the pleasure the players getting out of it, even, you know, on the training pitch.
Is that a big thing in football now today, Paul? You're still on the training pitch now. I mean, with the younger players at Luton, but players actually have to enjoy training and feel like they're taking something from every session. It can't just be run, can it?
No, I think in our day, Saturday was the focal point, and our mentality was to be ready for the game on Saturday. And sometimes you didn't get, you know, the detail of that now appears in training. We probably didn't get, arguably. You can argue both points, because when you have to take care of yourself, you start thinking a little bit more about the game. But I think, they need to enjoy training nowadays, and but I'm more now. I'm not a session coach. I'm more of a strategic coach. I do the shapes and the detail of the defending, attacking, and the principles that have lasted.
I used to hate that, Harty. I used to hate that.
What's that?
Shape and everything. It used to drive me nuts.
Oh, most things did. And by the way, I would never have wanted to manage you.
Why?
Because of that. Because
it's not natural. It's not natural. It only happened at the back end of my career.
No. Listen, ordinary mortals like me, you know, needed all the help they could get. Right? But you could turn up on Saturday having, you know, 3 weeks off. You know, and you were an absolutely fantastic player with great knowledge of the game. You know, I know you undersell yourself a little bit, but you've got great knowledge, and it's a little bit different these days.
It has to be, doesn't it? Yeah.
I suppose, is that one of the you know, the great points about Steve? I mean, Gary, we hear you've seen training, and we hear Jono on Monday was saying about how the detail they went into with the penalties, not just terms of taking them, but how Forest were going to stand, the Breese's notes on everything. I mean, on where they take them. Everything Forest have done, there's no stone left unturned under Steve Cooper, is there, this season, Garry?
It doesn't appear so, no. And the players, I think, have responded to that, unbelievably well. Before, I think you could probably get 4 or 5 who aren't too pleased with it. They're not happy with, what's going on the training pitch. But this group of players have just taken everything on board that he wants them to do. And I think it's just the manner, he goes around things with Stephen Reid and Alan Tate. You just watch everything that they do very closely, and you can't be, more than impressed with the way it goes. It's, it's a team effort. Steve will tell you that, but he's the focal point. He is the one who, sets it all up and takes it. But the other lads are so important as well, and Steve would tell you that. And I just watch, what the players are doing and how much they're enjoying it, and it's good to see that, because sometimes you went into training, it could be a chore. I was with the England squad, and Don Howe, great reputation, but he just bamboozled me with what he was doing on the training pitch compared with what we did at Forest. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? He's trying to complicate things too much. Football's an easy game if you do it the right way. And I was just absolutely bamboozled. Couldn't get to grips with it one little bit, and it puts you off a little bit. And I couldn't wait to get back to Forest to get back to normality.
Let's talk about Huddersfield. We've spoken so much about Forest, but not so much about Huddersfield. I assume, Paul, you watched the semi-finals against Luton, and you've seen a fair bit of them. I mean, what kind of challenge are they going to provide Forest on Sunday?
Well, we have a great friend of our club who now plays for Huddersfield Town, Matty Pearson, and so I want to appear respectful, but we should have won. We should have won the game. We had created numerous chances, and we should have won both games. I honestly think that Nottingham Forest will win, and the only thing that can stand in the way is if they're a little bit fragile mentally, nerves and things like that. But so I can't see anything other than a Nottingham Forest win. Huddersfield have done fantastically well. A little bit like Nottingham Forest, they've come. Nobody expected them to be around there at the start, but they've dug in, and I'm not saying it's going to be a walkover by any means, but if all things are equal, I can't see Nottingham Forest losing.
So how do you, if you were in the manager's chair in just before kick-off at Wembley, Paul, I mean, what's the right message, in your opinion, to send to players to get a performance out of them and make sure that nerves don't take over? What will Steve be saying potentially?
Well, I think he'll be wrestling with getting too excited. Not him, but getting the players up too much, and just getting the balance in the dressing room. But I would be saying, you got to get at these and don't let them off the hook right from minute one.
You've played in massive games. Well, both you played in massive games, but you played in European finals. Garry, you've played in major tournaments a major tournament for England. How much of it's mental, and how much of it is just the physical condition you're in terms of how you perform? Is it more in the head than by that stage to deliver a performance?
I think it can be, yeah. I mean, the second European Cup final, I think that was my 137th game in 2 seasons, so I was absolutely exhausted. And mentally, you've just got to try and get yourself through it. And that's all you can do. The worst thing about games like that is the build-up. I hated the build-up to it. I just couldn't wait to get out there. The nerves are jangling. You just want to get that, get out that dressing room door, get on the pitch, warm up, and hear that whistle blow to kick the game off. And that's exactly the same today. The players will be exactly the same on Sunday afternoon. Can't wait to get out on the pitch, and you just don't want to leave anything, in the dressing room. And Steve, I don't think Steve's team talk will be particularly long or particularly difficult, because they know what is expected of them. They're given the opportunity to go out there and express themselves. That's what he's done, Steve, with that squad. When he first came in, you didn't know whether the next point was coming from, and as soon as he came in, within weeks, you saw a massive change in the attitude and the desire of the players, and it was like the shackles had just been snipped off, and they couldn't wait to run free and express themselves. And when you've got that in your head, a manager tells you to go out and do that. As a player, you can't think of anything better. Just to say, right, go and express yourself. Just go and do what you do best. And I think that's what he does.
I think, Brennan's very young, but I think he's the only one who's played at Wembley for Forest. I don't know if anyone else would have done, but they played these big games against Liverpool, Arsenal, Leicester City. Does that stand them in good stead, Paul, that they've been on the national stage already? Is that an advantage, do you think?
Sometimes it can be. There's a lot riding on this game, which gives it an extra edge, I feel. But we come into football to play, to try and do the best we can and play at the highest level. So I've always looked at it that this is what we want. 90,000, whatever, 120,000 the new camp. That's what the game's all about. For a professional, in my view, that this is what you wanted as a kid, and so big crowds are great. I've got to be honest. It never really bothered me in terms of the crowd and what was there. It was just this is what you lived for. This is what you signed up for when you were 16, 17 or whatever. So I don't hold with that sort of stuff. And you have to put away at the back of your head what's in the papers and all that sort of stuff. It's got to be totally focused and there to be. I can't say enjoy, because you only enjoy it when you've won. But it's there as the challenge, and you've got to accept the challenge.
It's interesting what Paul says there, Gary, because you've often said on here, when you were playing, you didn't hear the crowd. But then that crowd in the semi-final, I've not heard it like that at the City Ground. When they went 2-0 down on the night, it was so loud. I mean, can the crowd at Wembley make a difference? Because there's going to be more Forest fans than Huddersfield fans. Is that going to be any kind of factor, Gary?
It depends on the individual. I just went out there with one focus in my mind, just to blot everything else out and do, what I had to do as that, because that was my job. Yes, you heard the noise, but it was just a buzz in the background. You didn't hear anything else. They chanted your name, but you didn't really, you didn't hear that when you were playing. You just concentrated on what you've got to do. I think you were comparing the 3 FA Cup games, the Leicester, Arsenal, Liverpool games. They were all at the City Ground. We're talking about Wembley, the national stadium, and that in itself can frighten players a little bit. Mentally, it can take the edge off you, because it's such a huge occasion at the biggest football ground, in the country, and the magnitude of what's going to happen. The 150 million going to the Premier League. That's the thing you want taken away from you as a player. You don't want to concentrate on that at all. It's a game of football, 90 minutes. You just want to go out there and do what you've been doing under Steve Cooper all season. There's no need to change anything, because it's been so impressive. You watch the way they play. There's a total belief in what they do out there. They trust each other, and it's been a joy to watch. And I just hope on Sunday they can put on a show. And I'd take a 1-0 now. I would take a 1-0 without a doubt.
I suppose in most people's minds, the Forest team picks itself apart from up front. Now Keenan Davis is fit again. Sam Surridge has done really well, but we saw the difference Keenan made when he came on, certainly in the second leg. From a striker's point of view, Gary, Would you have a preference on who starts at Wembley or not?
Sam Surridge for me. I think I'm a big Keenan fan because when he came in, his fitness levels, you could see weren't 100%, but he got better with every game. But I think what, Surridge does, he gives you so many different options. He's such a workaholic. His movement's excellent outside the box, and his movement inside the box is good, although minimal. And that's what good strikers do. They don't have to be sort of expansive in the box with the movement. It's just half a yard just to unsettle the defender. Harty will tell you that. Nothing worse than somebody who does that to you as a centre-half in a box. A striker who's on the move all the time. And some of the finishes we've seen from him this season have been outstanding. That would have been acceptable at the top level without a doubt. It's his composure when he gets in the right areas that's good. And I think, he'll create things as well because of what he does. And, if he gets the right service, then, he'll score goals for you because he relaxes when that ball comes to him. He doesn't panic. He doesn't try and hit it too hard. And I just love watching what he does because when he's out there, he's the one I'm watching. I'm watching for his movement. I'm watching what he does when somebody's in possession in midfield. Does he come to the ball? Yes, he does. Does he go the other way? Yes, he does. Is he good in the air? Yeah, he wins his fair share in the air. And can he finish? My word, can he finish? Yeah. So I think he deserves to be leading the team up front. And we all know that Keenan coming on could cause absolute havoc.
That's interesting. I think I'd probably go the other way. But what about you?
That's why you're a journalist.
Well, it is, yeah. No, it is, yeah. I mean, what about you, Paul? Well, Paul might disagree with you, Gary. Who would worry you?
Well, I'm not a journalist, but thank God. But I think Surridge has done very well. But it's something that we used to do or the manager used to. I think Davis is a better player, and is capable of. With the greatest respect to Huddersfield, I think they can be opened up. Davis is different. And he gives you that little bit of extra stuff. I think that Garry was talking about, and I think I go with Davis. Always return to your best team. I think he's probably in it. But if Surridge plays, he can cause them problem. I think that is where they are vulnerable. They're not great defending. One-on-ones, not particularly quick. I just think Davis would give Nottingham Forest that extra bit of something different.
I suppose.
I think Surridge's movement's better. I think he's more mobile, and I think that's what will tear defences apart a little bit. His movement. He'll go down the channels and he'll do it with pace. He'll do it with intelligence. And I just think
I agree with your statement on that. That he works hard and all that. I just think just that little bit of extra stuff around the penalty area, which they will get to. If they can't manage to keep Brennan and the right back. Sorry,
Jed Spence.
If they can't keep hold of those, they've got a real chance of opening them up. And I just think Davis has got that little bit of just something extra to add to it.
I suppose the thing is, though, Gary, the good thing is they're different strikers, isn't it? And if you do need something, they're not like for like coming off the bench. If you're 1-0 down after 60 minutes, you're not throwing on another big, powerful striker in Surridge. If it does go that way, that's got to be a big plus for Steve Cooper, isn't it?
Well, I think he's got the benefit of, swapping either one and changing it up because of the way they play, or he can go, two up front, if need be. And I think, that's a possibility as well. And that combination would cause absolute havoc, the pair of them, because they are so different. And Surridge would play off Keenan Davis because he's good in the air. He holds it up well. And, I just think the options he's got in that respect are pretty good. But it's just good to see Keenan back. But I think maybe Surridge will get the nod because maybe Keenan's fitness levels aren't maybe 100%, and it's Wembley. Remember, we all know they always say how sapping Wembley can be, but I never got that myself. But the football pitch, for goodness' sake, it was like any other. But yeah, it'd be interesting, but I'd still start with Surridge. I think he deserves it. I think because of his finishing, the different goals he scores as well. You know, he can score outside the box. He scores with his head. He'll get tap-ins, and I think that speaks volumes for any striker. He's not predictable. You know, and when you've got unpredictability against, you know, as a defender, defenders hate unpredictability. Paul will tell you that without a doubt, and he has got that in abundance. And you know, I just think his confidence levels are so high at the moment that he's got to start for me.
You mentioned pace there, Paul.
I think probably Archie Gemmill deserved to play in the European Cup final that time as well, and got lumped. But it's
that's a good way of putting it. I think got lumped.
Well, you know, it's brutal, isn't it? The game is brutal, and but either way, I think they've got enough to cause some damage.
Yeah, the last player I wanted to ask you about, Paul, you talk about pace. I mean, are Brennan and Jed Spence the key then, especially Brennan Johnson? Is he the key for Forest? If they get him into the game, does that give Forest a massive chance to win?
Yeah, definitely. We did when we beat Forest at home not so long ago. We saw them as the key to Forest play. I thought we did a good job that day, but they're very good players, and they've and certainly Brennan has been in tremendous.
I mean, I think the thing is, if you close, you know, try and close Brennan Johnson and Jed Spence down, then you've got to be worried about Zinchenko. You've got to be worried about Garner. You've got to be worried about Colback on the other side, who's been, I think, magnificent. Colback. You know, he's been different class for me since he's been put there. He never moans about it, gets on with it. The one worry for me on the day is the referee.
Yes.
I did the Leicester Southampton game last weekend, and he refereed that, and it wasn't particularly good. It was supposed to be his last game, but apparently they're giving him the playoff final, as a present sort of thing, you know, to see his career out. And that's the ref. I tell you what, the standard of referee in this season at every level, I think, has been an absolute disgrace at times. It's just staggering. And VAR, sometimes you wonder who's, you know, at Stockley Park watching you know, the games and how they come up with these decisions, because, you know, as players, I'm sitting there thinking, well, hold on, if that's outside the box, the referee will give a foul, but because it's in the box, is there a different rule for this? And it's just been so evident. You know, I speak to you know, people within football, and, you know, they're saying exactly the same. The standard of refereeing just isn't up to it at the moment, and they should all go on a refresher course, you know, because it's a massive part of the game. And, you know, Forest lost out maybe at Bournemouth to that poor linesman decision, given offside, clearly wasn't offside, would have been a penalty, and we lost the game 1-0. That was at 0-0. You know, it's things like that that can change football clubs' whole, you know, history sort of thing in a way. Because if Forest go automatic, we're not talking about this now. You know, we've been celebrating, we're happy, and you don't want to be getting knocked out on a decision that you can't affect. So refereeing has got to be better.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Gary. It feels like this season it's been particularly poor. I don't want to put you too much on the spot, Paul, but you've been in the dugout for a lot of games. Has it felt like there's been a real drop in standards of refereeing this season or not?
Well, I've always played, never got booked for anything like that. But mainly I looked on this premise, this process. I always start the game thinking that the referee is not very good, and so I never get disappointed. It's and I try and eliminate the referee from everything. We've been done. Garry and I have been done at Anderlecht. We've all seen poor refereeing when we've played and stuff like that. It can become a bird. I'm not saying Bill, and I'm not saying you're wrong here, Garry, by any means, but I try and take the referee away very fast, but we all know that we if they're poor and you argue, we can't change the mind. They don't. I've never seen a referee go back on a decision, unfortunately.
Apart from VAR.
Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's great, but everybody who's in football can say that.
True. Last word to you, Garry.
And of course,
Paul's already said.
That is,
Paul's already said he thinks Forest are going to win. What do you think, Garry?
Of course, I think they're going to win. I can't see any other result. I mean, it's 50-50, people keep saying, and everybody's saying Forest are favourites, and they deserve to be favourites because of what they've done since Steve came in. But it's a one-off game. We all know on a one-off game anything could happen. But I just think with Forest pace and power, and I think we've got three of the best centre halves in the Championship. Probably one of the best keepers in the Championship. I just think it's there for us, and if we don't take it, then it'll be down to the players. Steve, once he puts them out on that football pitch, like any other, Brian Clough used to say, once you cross that white line, it's down to you. I can't do anything. I can't affect the game, and that's how it has always been. And I just think the players. It's about confidence. It's about not feeling the pressure. I think the team who don't feel the pressure will win the game, and I'm just hoping and praying that it's going to be Forest.
Yeah, as we all are. We'll leave it there. Thanks to everyone who's watched along and dropped comments in as we go live. Certainly appreciate that. If you missed the episode earlier in the week with Prutz and Jono, do give that a listen because it was really interesting. Lots of insight from Jono on what's happening in the camp. Thanks to Garry and Paul, and we shall be back next week with a couple more episodes, hopefully to discuss Forest being in the Premier League, and we shall see everyone soon.